time for another edition of this Stack Deck Podcast Master Debates. I almost forgot what the name of this was in just the second one, but it is now time for yet another classic debate after last week's Indiana Jones versus Han Solo, who will win in a fight. I, Bryan Stackpole, will take on Nick Nadeau in another classic debate. And I think the precursor has already been shown here. It's going to be Pepsi versus Coke. I think that's fair. It's a fair assessment.
It is a very fair argument.
As we both know, I will be choosing the Pepsi side, and you will be choosing the Coke side, and we will have a riveting debate on that here today.
Riveting.
Are you ready to go, my friend?
I was ready yesterday.
I'll have the opening statement this time around, and the closing rebuttal, and then you will have the next one. So we'll start things off.
Here we go. Good luck.
Oh, thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being here. When I think of a hot summer day, I'm just sitting out there enjoying myself. Here in this general location, we live up in a colder climate, so when you get those summer days, you really have to enjoy them. And there's nothing I love more than waking up, hearing the birds chirping, some grass being mowed, going outside, sitting there in a warmth that you've not had before, and I'm just building up a little bit of a thirst. And you could reach for an adult beverage. You could do that, but there's nothing really much better than the sound of a nice open crack of a Pepsi. And that just sweet smelling aroma, that first time you lift it up to your mouth, and you take that first sip. There's nothing better in this world than Pepsi. It doesn't have that aftertaste that some other colas might get into. It really is the perfect type of beverage out there. And it's had some good history back in the day. It has a great color scheme. I'll talk more about this as we progress onward. But for my money, there is no better soft drink out there on the market than this Pepsi that we have right here in front of me. And it's nice ice and cold. It just has that taste to it. There's nothing better out there in the soft drink realm than a nice Pepsi on a hot day, on a cold day, any day. Any day that ends in Y is a great day for a Pepsi. Even though the marketing hasn't been around for decades and hundreds of years like its opponent in this battle, Pepsi is the better cola. Bar none. There's no comparison.
Wow. What a great opening statement, Bryan.
Thank you, Sam.
And might I just say, again, what an honor.
Excuse me.
It is. I'm awfully thirsty. But
so good.
The Coca-Cola that you have given me, I don't think I'm going to open because it has a signature on the back.
Fair.
Here's a story.
Okay.
When Bryan and I were discussing topic ideas, I threw this one out. It received positive reaction, and we decided to go forward with it. But what Bryan didn't know is how much of a connection I have with this tasty soft drink. Coke has been wrapped up in my life for as long as I can remember. And we'll talk about that moving forward. When it comes to a drink, there's nothing that I would like to crack open more on any given day that may or may not end with Y than a Coca-Cola. The nice red-white color scheme, the mascot of the Coca-Cola polar bear, way better than whatever mascot Pepsi may have, is just something that brings joy when you think about it. And you'll see a pattern going here, moving forward. When it comes to thinking about Coke, you think about good times. And when you think about good times, usually your day gets better. And there's nothing that can make my day better than cracking open an ice-cold Coca-Cola beverage.
Well, you bring some things up here, Nick. I want to let you know, I want to give you a little history on Pepsi that also helps out in my argument. It's not just a generic history about Pepsi, but I kind of give you a reason why it's the best. The origins, you know what it used to be called? It wasn't even Pepsi. It was called Brad's Drink.
Brad's Drink.
Just a random guy named Brad developing a drink. What an awesome dude, you know? He developed his own drink and then eventually turned into Pepsi. Do you know why it's named Pepsi?
No, I do not.
It's because it helped relieve dyspepsia, which you might commonly know it as indigestion.
Really?
So its basis is actually helping people as opposed to just being a delicious little soft drink. It also, back in the day, helped people. And that's just a message that Pepsi continuously brings to us throughout the years. Because the Great Depression, when everyone was really tight on money, Pepsi had a campaign in which they would sell no soda for more than 5 cents to help out the people who needed the money the most and to need this pinch every penny. Literal pennies back in the day we're talking about. Pepsi had that ad campaign which they would try to do that. They even had this. Pepsi Cola hits the spot, 12 full ounces, that's a lot. Twice as much for a nickel too. Pepsi Cola is the drink for you. I mean, what a catchy little thing to have, and what a good way to help out the people who desperately needed it the most. And here's another thing, Nick.
Okay.
They catered towards all different types of people in the 1940s, not just Caucasian people. They catered towards minorities and actively catered towards minorities. You know what they also did? They featured them in advertising not as like an Aunt Jemima or an Uncle Ben. They used them as actual people. They had these characters or these people in these advertisements as actual middle-class people. They didn't use them for any stereotype or anything else. They showed that we are all humans no matter what our gender, whatever our race, and that we all, as human beings and Americans and throughout the world, enjoy the delicious Pepsi. So Pepsi has done a lot of good for America.
How's that Pepsi taste over
It's
there?
delicious. It's so good. I'm almost done. I need another one.
Anyway, the only reason Pepsi did those commercials is because Coke did them first. Going forward, I could go on and talk about John Stith Pemberton. I could go on to talk about the sales record and the past marketing schemes or whatever. But what I'm going to do is tell you some personal stories that I have connected with Coke. And then at the end of my argument, I'll make my point. Zippity doodah. The very first time I can remember anything Coke was the very first time my mom and dad brought me to Walt Disney World. Coke branding everywhere. Coke this, Coke that, splash, sploosh, Coke. And McDonald's, but Coke. I went to a little place in Walt Disney World called Epcot. You know the giant ball, that guy? That's Epcot. And in Epcot, there was this place. And I have it written down here because it's got a really funky name to it. It is the Coke Polar Bear Chill Garage. And when I saw that as a kid, I flipped out. Not only did it have the tasty Coke beverage you could buy in any 5 feet in Disney World, it had them in slushy form. And I looked at my mom and dad, and I'm like, Mama, Papa, can I please have a Coke slushie?
You were also British at the time.
At the time.
Yeah.
And they said, son, of course. Please, we're going to buy you this slushie. Enjoy it. Because it was $20. But when I think of Coke, I think about Disney World. When I think about Disney World, I think of me being happy. That's what Coke does for me. When I think about the times in my life where I'm most happy, somewhere around the corner, Coke is there. And I can't say the same thing for Pepsi. One time, when I was out in the woods, I thought I was lost. I saw a Pepsi can. I think about that. I cry. So, that is my story of Walt Disney World and why Coke makes that memory good.
Well, I appreciate that story, and it's good to bring in your own personal experiences into this and enjoying that and having these memories. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you. Thank you.
But no offense, anyone can have those. I have those when I'm sitting on the back porch with my dad enjoying a Pepsi. We were a Pepsi family, of course, so having that with my grandmother, too, and all my relatives just enjoying a nice cold one of a ice-cold blue Pepsi. But I also can't deny the past of Coca-Cola. I mean, there's a lot of different things that Coke should be viewed as is very poor. BreakFreeFromPlastic.com named Coke back in 2019 as single biggest plastic polluter in the entire world. Not to mention, John Pemberton, as you mentioned, was an opioid addict and actually tried to create this as a sort of, way to get people off opioids, which in theory is great. But the problem is he created a cocaine wine. That's what what Coke originally was. It was a cocaine wine. Literally was alcohol with cocaine in it. That's what he developed. That's obscene when you think about it. Oh, and I also mentioned about Pepsi's great marketing campaign, and I think you mentioned about how Coke had done it first. The KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, hated Pepsi because of their work with advertising with minorities, and Coke was actually in favor of not white supremacy, but they were skirting around some lines there, which might not have been so savory. Mascotting, we talk about that. The polar bears, it's cool. Don't really care. They had to use Santa Claus and basically threats of violence to these kids and saying, like, you don't drink a Coke. Santa Claus loves Coke. If you don't drink Coke, Santa's not going to give you gifts. How rude is that for the youngsters out there to not be able to give them a choice of enjoying a delicious Pepsi instead of a Coke with that bad aftertaste just because they're basically trying to guilt them in that Santa's not going to give them gifts otherwise. How rude.
I'm just going to say this. I'm not sure where you got your facts.
Oh, I got them on my
John
research.
Pemberton. But that is not the first thing he created. But we can talk about that sometime else.
An opioid addiction was the first thing he created?
No, he created a nice soda jerk fountain drink. Anyway,
and a cocaine line.
I have been to the Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta, Georgia. I have seen up front, I have an actual bottle that got made as it went through the factory with me. Since 2004, Coca-Cola Company has been the market leader, according to statistics. In 2020, PepsiCo had a market cap of $189.6 billion, and Coca-Cola had a market cap of $185 billion. So why would you have a bigger market cap and still not sell more? Coca-Cola Company has a product portfolio of more than 3,500 beverages and 500 standalone brands. Granted, I did my research on Pepsi too. I didn't want to come into this blind. PepsiCo, in general, has a lot of brands. A lot of them that I love. Frito-Lay. Love Fritos. Who doesn't like Fritos? Fritos on a hot day, Fritos on a cold day. We're not talking about Fritos. But when it comes to a drink, there is no drink I would rather have more in my arsenal than the lineup that Coke has. The only thing that I like about Pepsi, that Pepsi has, and I don't even like Pepsi in general, is Mountain Dew. But Mountain Dew, even on the best day, could not compare to a nice, smooth, crisp Dr. Pepper.
This is a Coke versus Pepsi sort of debate. I'm just going to put that out there. I could devalue some of the other products of Coke and whatnot, but I'm not going to go there. And you mentioned sell rates and everything else. First of all, it's the Santa Guild. I mean, that's first and foremost. They also have been around a little bit longer than Pepsi, which gives you that built-in extra advantage, like you see time and time again. But Nick, do you mind telling me your heritage? I notice your name is a little bit French, is it? Are you a French-Canadian heritage?
You could say that, yeah.
Well, it's funny. When I was looking at sell rates, sure, Coke might have that, but actually French Canadians love Pepsi. They absolutely love it, including a phrase that they coined in Quebec as, "Here, it's Pepsi," in which Coca-Cola even had to try to answer to, and they said, "Everywhere else it's Coke," trying to thumb their nose at everything else. Pepsi also, you're a big football guy, right? You're a Charger?
Big
Charger
football
fan?
guy.
Yeah. They're the official sponsor of the NFL and soft drinks. What else do they have? Oh, little thing called NBA, the NHL. I mean, you're talking about some big-time sponsorships from Pepsi, too. And they do have an actual mascot, but it's not something they have to hide their drink behind. It's called Pepsi Man. And you know what Pepsi Man does? He gives you a Pepsi and delivers it to you when you need it the most. What a great mascot. He's not a stupid little polar bear sliding around in some ice that has nothing to do with a Coca-Cola.
Wow.
He literally helps you. When I'm thirsty, Pepsi Man comes up and gives me a Pepsi and helps me quench my thirst. So good. And my last little point here, Nick, with Pepsi. What's the color of communism?
Nice.
Red.
Yeah.
What's America? When I think of America, I think of the red, the white, and the blue. What is more America than that? And Pepsi.
Well, I think it's time for me to wrap it up here, make my point.
Do you want to do your closing arguments? Or do you want to rebut that first?
I'm going to rebut, and then we can do closing arguments. I'd like to talk about my first date. It was 2009. Obama just became president. We won't talk about that, though. I'd recently asked a girl on a date to the movies. Of course, she said yes, because always they say yes. Next weekend, we set out to see Paul Blart Mall Cop with Kevin James. You ever see that movie?
No.
Great movie. Loved that movie. It was hilarious, but was not funny when the girl on the date said she would rather have a crisp water than a fresh Coke. Needless to say, I cut that relationship off immediately because I wasn't going to date a girl that didn't want to drink the best and finest soft drink in America, Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola, if you're watching this, just know that I've been your supporter since the age of 4, which is, I believe, the first time I had a Coca-Cola. And I think when America gets in on this argument, Brian, they're going to side with fond memories rather than having to resort to you, who looked up the dark ages of Coca-Cola. I think they'd rather look at their best ages of Coca-Cola. My dad, when we were in the Coca-Cola factory, the museum in Atlanta, Georgia, they have a vault. Huge vault. Takes up the entire building. Security guard in front of it. My father looks right at the security guard, looks at the safe, goes over, tries to open up the safe, puts his hand on the scanner. Whole building goes into a lockdown. Whole building goes into a lockdown. Security officer said, "Sir, come with me." They take my dad away. Building opens back up. My dad comes out. Different changed man. Because they don't want to give up what that secret formula is. But they let my dad in on a little secret. And a lot of the secret formula has to do with what the taste of fond memories tastes like. And you know what that is? That's Coca-Cola, friend.
I'm glad you outed your dad as a criminal. That was great to hear. And this isn't ancient history, my friend. I even dated back that plastic pollution thing to 2019. I know 2020 was a long year, but not that far away.
Well, it was the same amount of year as the other one.
We've all made mistakes in the past, deservedly so. And I'm not going to fault Coca-Cola for things that have happened 80 years ago, but it's part of the story. Just wanted to put that out there before we did these closing arguments. Oh, yeah, I got you ready.
I love it.
All right. Have your last closing argument.
I just want to say, Brian, we're friends. We do these... Okay.
I'm just kidding.
We do these as arguments that we may have otherwise.
It's a spirited debate.
Absolutely. And I just want to let you know, I will probably leave here today. And at some point today, maybe have a Pepsi drink.
I'll give you one afterwards.
I appreciate it. But when it comes to why I picked Coke in this debate, it has to do with, like I said, the fond memories surrounding Coke. I cannot think of one good memory that I have with Pepsi. At the end of the day, the argument doesn't have to do with memories. This has to do with what the best drink is. And according to sales, the best drink is Coca-Cola. No matter what way you slice it, no matter which way the pie you look at it, Coke has been around longer, which is probably why they have a little bit more something to do with that pollution thing. They have been around longer. They have been the A game since the A game was invented. They have been there every step of the way to show other soda brands how to be soda brands. And I don't think that we would have a Pepsi if first we didn't have a Coke. And I want to say, again, just thank you for this. This may be the best argument I've ever had. Debate, not argument, debate.
And I appreciate that as well. You've been a worthy adversary.
Thank you, good sir.
I do have to bring up, though, I have to ask you a question as part of my closing statement here before I get it done.
Okay.
Are you a fan of Home Alone? You enjoy the movie?
I love Kellen McAllister, yeah.
What about Fight Club? Wayne's World? Back to the Future? Great movie.
I see where you're going with this.
They were all incredible Pepsi product placements.
Yes, they were.
Did you know Coke, back in the day, actually had to buy Columbia Pictures in 1982 to put their product in there to kind of counteract everything? By the way, they had to sell it 7 years later to Sony Pictures because didn't know how to run it. Just going to put that out there. But when you think about Pepsi and you think about what's the better one, I basically put it out to this. What is more akin to America? When I think of America, I think of the idealistic nature. I think of doing things for the greater good, and that's what Pepsi is. That's Pepsi's MO. It's their main thing. They haven't changed or oscillated. They have a product in Crystal Pepsi that people beckon for. They wanted to bring back, as opposed to Coke, which decided to change everything up and then get ridiculed with the new Coke plan. But when I think about everything Pepsi related, I think of the branding. You've got the red, white, and blue. You've got an American company built up from the ground floor, lifting up people who might not get the representation before, like these minorities back in the 40s where they were not getting representation outside of caricatures. And that's really what Pepsi is all about. It's ingrained in itself. It used to be basically a way to help solve indigestion and help alleviate that. But now it has become a product synonymous with America. When you watch America's game, when you're watching the NFL and you saw The Weeknd, he did it at the Super Bowl Pepsi halftime show. And the colors, not only synonymous with America too, these colors don't run. And this drink does run down your throat though, because it's red, white, and blue, and it is America. This is the drink of greatness. And if you don't like Pepsi, do you really love your country?
I think I love my country, but I don't like Pepsi.
Just saying that. But that's going to do it for this debate here today. Really
They
appreciate
can vote.
Yeah, you can vote. What you do is you go and do that in the social media channels. We'll have the Twitter page, the Facebook page, and you can just vote. You can just get your opinion out there. You can comment about our debates. You can try to pick them apart if you so choose. You can do so at Stacked Deck Pod. We will unveil the winner of the next Stacked Deck podcast as well, and we will be back next week for another lively debate on Master Debates. For
Jacob versus Edward.
No, I was going to say your name.
No.
What's your name? Nick Nadeau. Thank you. Son of a... I'm Bryan Stackpole saying, see you until next time.